Okay, you guys, so let's get into reframing. So when we're reframing, this is kind of the first step in rewiring your brain. And it is literally like a reframe, right? Or a redirection, or and it simply starts with awareness. Like, just like I say right here, it's just catching yourself. It's catching yourself and taking a mental note or literally writing down when you're doing it. So catching yourself when you are using language that doesn't serve you, negative, low energy language, catching yourself when you're giving, or you're using language that's giving your story, your negative story or stories supporting evidence, catching yourself when you're saying a story that you no longer want to identify with. Like, that's what I'm talking about here. So it's catching yourself and taking note. And it really is just stopping yourself and like taking a second and saying, stop. And now you're going to replace it with something. And what I like, repetition is very powerful when you're doing these things. What I like to do is replace it with something 3 times, something different 3 times. It could be as simple as this, like, oh, well, I just had a crappy childhood, so this is just the way that I am. Stop. And like, think about it for a second. How do I want to reframe this? I may have had an unfortunate childhood at times, but I have gratitude for my parents bringing me into this world, and I am giving my parents grace for raising me the way that they did, because it was all they knew and they did the best that they could. Okay, so now I just reframed it, and now I would go back and I would say it again. So I may have had some unfortunate things happen in my childhood, but I am so grateful that my parents brought me into the world, and I'm going to give my parents grace for raising me the way that they did, because it was all that they knew and they did the best that they could. And I would go back and say it again. So, and you get the point. I don't need to repeat it again. But the reason we repeat is because you are literally rewiring signals in your brain, and it's going to take practice. And you're going to have to do it over and over again. So the more that you can reframe and repeat those things over and over, the easier it's going to get. And the more familiar you're going to get with these new stories and the new language. And it's going to help you be able to stop it and overcome it that much quicker. And you will get to a point where either you've forgotten the old story, or you just really don't even think about or talk about the old story. Or if the old story comes up, you can easily knock it out of the way and move forward. A powerful exercise is just to say the words "in the past." So people say, oh, I'm not a morning person. I can't get up in the morning. I'm so grumpy in the morning, hate the alarm, yada, yada. I'm not a morning person. I'm not a morning person, right? So what you can start doing is saying, in the past, I was not a morning person, but I'm working every single day to become a morning person. In the past, I was not a morning person, but I'm working every single day, one step at a time, to enjoy the mornings and be grateful for the mornings and enjoy, a new day upon me. Like, however you want to do it. So in the past, I was whatever your story or your situation is. So in the past, I put my wall up towards my husband. And you don't even need to support it in that instance. So like, you don't need to say, well, in the past, I put walls up towards my husband because of the way that my father treated me, or whatever, right? Don't, because then you're kind of repeating that back to yourself. So you don't want to really give that a whole lot of energy. So I would just say, in the past, I had put my walls up towards my husband, and I'm going to be working every single day to slowly learn how to bring those walls down and get, more vulnerable with him, however you have to do it. So when you wrote down the story that you go with, or the stories you go with, or whatever, and you can do this in, any situation or scenario in your life, then what you want to start to do is replace it. So what I would do if you did write that down is I would look back at it now and think like, okay, how am I gonna reframe this and rewrite this, and what do I want this to look like now? So you're starting on a fresh page, right? When you're rewriting your story, I would physically start on a fresh page, but then also think of it that way when you're just vocalizing it to yourself. And this is the question you're going to ask yourself. What do you want your story to be? What do you want your story to be? What story is going to serve you and give you power now? What story is going to help you get to the next level in your life? What story is going to help you take the next step? What story is going to help you overcome this challenge? What story is going to get you unstuck? So envision, like, if I could have this incredible story about myself and my life, what would it look like? What would it feel like? What would it sound like? What language would it entail? And then you write those things down. And then those are the things that you start thinking and feeling and saying and believing. And they're gonna feel foreign to you for a while because some of you have been saying the same stories for freaking years. Some of you have been saying them forever, for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, 70 years, however old you are. So the longer you've been telling the story, the harder it might be. And this is all understanding. You have to give up who you are and who you used to be to become who you are. Sorry. You have to give up who you used to be to become who you are, the future version of yourself. And in case you didn't know, you can be whatever you want to be. Like, your future version of you, the best possible version of you, is available, and it's just waiting for you to take it, take control of it, take power of it, own it, step into it. Really, when we start to understand and learn that the resistance in our life really is our power, like, when you feel resistance, that is the best opportunity to overcome and to grow and to change and to rewire and rewrite. Like, oh no, I feel resistance. Oh no, I feel resistance. People tap out and they shy away, and they go back to what they were doing and they just stay stuck. Well, why? Because our brain's trying to protect us, and that resistance is uncomfortable and we don't like that feeling. But that's where all your power is in the resistance, because the resistance is the signal or the sign that something can be overcome and something can be changed. And so your resistance is your power. So you're going to have to give up this version of you. And there is a little bit of a almost grieving period for some people that go through this, because you're just so addicted to and so comfortable with who you've been. And even if it hasn't been serving you, even if it's not a great place to be, you're still addicted to and comfortable with it. And you like it. You like it. Whether you want to say I don't like it or not, you like it enough to be staying where you are, because it is comfortable and it does, it is predictable. It's predictable. Your brain loves when things are predictable. So if you've been going with this story for so long and it's the most comfortable place for your brain to be, and it's the most predictable place for your brain to be and for you to live, well, that's why you continue to stay there time and time and time again. Every single day you wake up and you just keep repeating the same story over and over, and then you look for evidence, and it's like you really are addicted to being uncomfortable. You're comfortable with being uncomfortable. So knowing that the resistance is your opportunity to grow and to be set free and to take back that power and to decide what your life is going to look like and feel like, man, there's nothing more rewarding than leaning into that and making those changes and making that progress and being able to look back at old versions of yourself and be like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you and the growth that you've had and the progress that you've made. And, you might grieve a little bit in the process of letting go of this old version of you, because that's been the version of you for a long time. But know on the other side, this new version of you, or this new story that you're creating or rewriting, is better. And it holds things and experiences and love and abundance and joy and gratefulness, like that's what's on the other side, is more of better things, things that you long for, things that you've been wishing for and wanting for and praying for. They are on the other side of all of this. So that's why it's worth doing the work. And that's why I'm so passionate about this stuff, because man, like if only we knew how quickly, you know, we could overcome these things. Like some of us stay stuck in situations for years, not realizing that if we could just tap into this, and again, I know it's easier said than done. I don't want to make it sound like it's the easiest thing to do, because it's not. But now you have tools and resources to do it. And so now it's up to you to go out and take action. So look at those stories or the story or whatever you wrote down and start thinking about how you're going to start rewiring and rewriting. It's hard to say those words at the same time. Start thinking about that. And then we will kind of talk about too what happens when we start rewiring and rewriting, because what happens is like self-limiting beliefs and things are going to still come up, and we have to have tools to be able to continue to overcome them as we still feel that resistance. So that's what we'll kind of jump into next.